Another alert now. Houthi rebels firing upon the USS Mason.
2:17 local time. Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar. Captain Elena Torres is checking a tanker launch schedule under floodlights and desert haze. In 19 minutes, everything she knows about deterrence in the Gulf will be shattered. Missile warnings are about to race from the Persian Gulf to the Zagros Mountains. This is how a regional strike begins. The night feels ordinary at first. Heat still clings to the concrete even after midnight. Maintenance crews move between hardened shelters. A KC-46 sits fueled and waiting. Far off, the low thunder of jet engines rolls across the flat Qatari dark. Then, look beyond the calm. Al Udeid is not just another airfield. It is one of the most important American hubs in the Middle East, a nerve center for command, intelligence, refueling, surveillance, and air power across the region. Now, a few hundred miles away sit Al Dhafra in the UAE, the Strait of Hormuz, Bahrain's naval infrastructure, and the vulnerable arteries of global energy traffic. Imagine you're standing on that flight line right now. You smell jet fuel, dust, hot metal. You hear generators humming. And somewhere over that horizon, people you cannot see are preparing to turn this whole region into a hunt, because the geopolitical backdrop is already primed for disaster. Tensions have been climbing for weeks after maritime harassment, proxy rocket fire in Iraq, and escalating threats around shipping lanes near Hormuz. Intelligence analysts have been tracking unusual movement at known Iranian missile garrisons. More transporter erector launchers than normal, more encrypted traffic, more decoy activity around hardened tunnel complexes in western Iran. Nothing definitive. Not enough for a first strike, just enough to keep commanders awake. Now shift your perspective. Deep inside a hardened underground complex near Kermanshah, cut into rock and protected by layers of concrete, blast doors, and redundant communications, a senior IRGC commander watches a digital map glow blue and red. Around him, operators feed target packages into launch cells. Their logic is cold and brutally simple. Hit American bases fast enough, with enough variety, and you create confusion, spectacle, and hesitation. You don't need total destruction. You need political effect. You need headlines. You need a few runway craters, a few burning fuel farms, a few dead service members, and the perception that U.S. defenses can be pierced. Tonight's fictional strike package is built around 52 inbound threats. 14 medium-range ballistic missiles, 18 land attack cruise missiles, 21 one-way attack drones, different speeds, different altitudes, different approach vectors, a layered problem designed to overload a layered defense. They believe the Americans will respond like a giant forced to blink. Protect, assess, delay, debate. They believe hardened bunkers and underground command rooms will buy enough time to relocate leadership before the counterblow lands. In their minds, this is not reckless. It is calculated. Predators strike when prey looks comfortable, and for a moment, they feel sure of it. They know the region is crowded, politically sensitive, and packed with civilian air routes, partner forces, and maritime traffic. They know every U.S. response must account for escalation. They think hesitation is built into the system. They think America will spend hours in meetings while they spend minutes shaping the story. But there's a problem with their plan. What they didn't account for is not a single miracle weapon. It's the network, the integration, the speed at which modern sensors collapse distance. The strike may be fictional, but the architecture is very real. Space-based infrared warning, Aegis radars at sea, forward-based early warning, airborne battle management, Link 16 data sharing, F-35 sensor fusion, Patriot batteries already aligned, THAAD crews already drilled, human beings who have repeated this nightmare in exercises until muscle memory takes over. The enemy sees separate targets. The defense sees one picture, and once that picture sharpens, the hunters become visible. At 2:24, the first launch plumes bloom on infrared satellites. 7 seconds later, automated warning cues populate across multiple command screens. 20 seconds after that, regional command centers begin cross-confirmation. Trajectories are still maturing, but ballistic profiles are unmistakable. Officers don't need a speech. They need numbers, count, speed, azimuth, estimated impact windows. The room goes from conversation to clipped commands in a heartbeat. You're there now, staring at the screen as icons multiply. Some are real warheads, some may be decoys. All of them must be treated as lethal until proven otherwise. At Al Udeid, sirens cut through the night. Ground crews sprint for shelters. Pilots move toward aircraft already cocked for alert launch. Air defenders rotate from standby to engagement posture. On the big boards, the threat picture expands west to east. Launch points in Iran are tracks curving toward Qatar, Bahrain, and the Gulf. At sea, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer already on station receives updated cueing. Farther south, another warship turns its sensors into the threat axis. At Al Dhafra, F-35As spool up. An E-3 sentry pushes the air picture wider. In hardened command spaces, somebody says the line nobody ever wants to hear for real. Multiple inbound, execute defensive sequence. Could you make that call with 4 seconds to decide whether a blip is a decoy or a warhead? Could you carry out your checklist knowing a wrong decision means bodies on a runway? This is where training stops being theory. The ballistic wave arrives first, high, hot, and fast. 14 missiles climbing, arcing, then driving downward with terrifying speed. The first interceptors rise from sea and land almost simultaneously. High above the Gulf, exo-atmospheric shots reach for the earliest tracks. THAAD batteries take the next layer, targeting descending bodies before they can complete terminal approach. Then Patriot PAC-3 MSE batteries stand ready below, the last hard shield around critical infrastructure. The sky becomes geometry and violence, white spears rising, bright flashes blooming, debris clouds scattering in the dark like metal rain. One target disappears at altitude, then another, then 3 more. Minute 2, 5 ballistic missiles are gone. Minute 3, THAAD crews knock out 4 more. Minute 4, Patriot batteries engage the leakers, slamming into re-entry vehicles with hit-to-kill precision that turns warheads into fragments before they reach the base. The sound on the ground is unlike movie warfare. It's not one giant explosion. It's layered concussion, sharp cracks, rolling booms, the scream of interceptors leaving canisters, the rattle of debris hitting roofs and sand. Service members inside bunkers feel dust shake loose from concrete ceilings. Somebody grips a helmet too hard. Somebody whispers a prayer. Somebody checks their phone one last time, even though there's no one to text yet. By 2:29, 13 of the 14 ballistic missiles have been destroyed. The last breaks apart under terminal engagement, and fragments scatter into open desert short of the runway. The first spear has failed, but this attack was never about one spear. It was about the pack. The cruise missiles come in low, using terrain masking, sea clutter, and confusion. 18 of them, spread across multiple headings to divide attention. This is where the air picture gets ugly. While cruise missiles are not dramatic arcs on a screen, they are stalking shapes, fast and deliberate, moving beneath the clean logic of high-altitude tracking. They exploit horizon limits. They force defenders to think in layers and seconds. Now, the fighters enter the fight. F-35As from Al Dhafra, already airborne on alert posture, angled toward the inbound tracks with sensor data streaming across fused displays. To the pilots, the darkness outside the canopy means almost nothing. The real battlefield is inside the helmet, where signatures, vectors, threat libraries, and kill options merge into one decision space. Off the carrier deck in the North Arabian Sea, F/A-18. Super Hornets join the net. An E-3 pushes updates. Aegis ships shift priority tracks. The air war compresses into a few violent minutes. First shot. Not one cruise missile disappears in a bloom over the water. Second shot. Miss. Third and fourth. 2 kills. Then the naval layer joins in. SM-6 interceptors leap from vertical launch cells, turning the sky over the Gulf into a corridor of fire. Another cruise missile dies. Then another. Then another. One dives lower and slips through. Patriot radars catch it late. A battery fires. Intercept. Fragments slash into an empty storage yard. You're in that cockpit now, heart hammering, seeing targets peel off, merge, split, and vanish. No grand speech, just breathing, confirmation tones, and the knowledge that every surviving missile could be carrying enough explosive to tear through steel and flesh. By 2:33, the score is brutal. Of 18 cruise missiles, 16 are gone. One impacts a decoy aircraft revetment and erupts into a fireball that lights the base perimeter orange. One more reaches the edge of a logistics area before CRAM guns rip it apart so close the blast still shatters windows and wounds 2 airmen with flying debris. Not dead, wounded, alive, barely. In war, that difference is everything. And then the drones arrive. 20 one-way attack drones sound almost harmless if you say the number too casually. They are not. They are cheap pressure. They are persistent stress. They are meant to force expensive interceptors, drain attention, and slip through chaos. Some are jammed. Some are seduced off course by electronic warfare. Others keep coming, propellers whining like mechanical insects over black water and industrial lights. This final layer belongs to discipline more than glamour. And ground-based air defense teams shift to shorter-range engagements. Electronic attack systems flood sections of the spectrum. F-15ES launch into the stack to pick off stragglers. Base defense gunners track through optics and thermal sights. Over the perimeter, tracers begin climbing. One drone tumbles, another spirals, a third keeps coming until a short-range missile clips it and detonates it above an empty maintenance lot. The blast is brief, ugly, and close enough for men in bunkers to feel it in their teeth. Minute 9, 6 drones down. Minute 11, 11. Minute 14, 16. Minute 17, 18. 2 get through far enough to detonate near parked decoys and a fuel bladder berm, setting secondary fires but doing no strategic damage. When the attack that was supposed to humiliate the United States has become a demonstration of layered defense under pressure. 52 launched, 49 destroyed, 3 penetrations, 0 decisive effect. The runway remains open, command remains intact, aircraft are still launching. The prey did not panic, the prey had teeth. Now flip the perspective again. Back inside the underground war room near Kermanshah, the mood changes. Operators who expected impact videos and base fires are staring instead at dead tracks, intercepts, lost telemetry, broken feeds. The commander begins asking the wrong question too late. How much of our launch signature did they see? Because the problem is no longer whether the strike succeeded. It didn't. The problem is what those launch plumes, comms bursts, and emergency transmissions have just revealed. Not just batteries, not just routes, a command chain. This is where overconfidence becomes exposure. At 2:36, while debris still falls near Al Udeid, the U.S. response tree begins to lock into place. National command authorities are alerted. Regional commanders present options measured in minutes, not days. Defensive success creates freedom. Freedom creates choices. And the most dangerous choice on the board is not merely to punish launchers. It is to sever the head directing them. A senior IRGC commander is believed to be operating from a hardened underground node in western Iran. ISR has tracked pattern-of-life indicators to the complex for weeks. Signals intercepts during the attack now strengthen the case. He is not just hiding there. He is commanding from there. If he relocates, the window closes. If he stays, the window opens. Could you make that call? Strike the bunker and risk killing everyone inside? Or seize it and expose the entire network? The answer in this fictional scenario is decisive. Do both in sequence. At 2:41, counterattack authorization is given. Not for indiscriminate escalation, not for symbolic retaliation, for a calculated demonstration of information dominance and reach. First, the outer shell, then the launch infrastructure, then the command node, then the man inside it. The opening phase of the response is silent to most people on the ground. Cyber teams lean into networks already under pressure. Electronic warfare aircraft begin shaping gaps in local awareness. ISR platforms tighten the picture around western Iran. Tankers shift tracks. Fighters reposition. A Virginia-class submarine in the Arabian Sea receives execute orders. On destroyers in the Gulf align launch baskets. From Diego Garcia, long-range strike assets already alerted earlier begin their run. This is not improvisation. This is doctrine moving at combat speed. Then the missiles leave. Tomahawks arc out over black water, dozens of them, low and precise, aimed at air defense nodes, communications relays, and known missile support facilities tied to the strike package. JASSMERs follow from penetrating aircraft, tasked against hardened entrances, power substations, and ventilation systems supporting the underground complex. The sequence matters. Blind the outer eyes, break the local shield, collapse mobility, trap the command team inside their own sanctuary. If you were on the Iranian side in those minutes, what would it feel like? Not the drama of attack, the dread of realization, but the understanding that every hardened layer you trusted is being peeled back by enemies you still cannot see. At 3:07, western Iran begins to shake. One air defense radar goes dark, then another. A communications mast folds in sparks. Fuel trucks burn near a support yard. Tunnel access roads crater under precision strikes, trapping response vehicles and sealing off the fastest escape routes. Secondary detonations ripple through a missile storage area connected to the earlier launch network. The command bunker remains intact enough for its occupants to think survival is possible. That is intentional. Destroying the bunker is easy. Owning the man inside is harder, and strategically far more valuable. Now the Rangers move. Elements of the 75th Ranger Regiment, supported by Special Operations Aviation and a wider joint package overhead, launch toward the target area under cover of darkness and electronic confusion. No flashy heroics, no shouting, just black helicopters, red cabin lights, rotor wash, and men checking each other's gear in silence. Each knows the mission is simple only on paper. Penetrate a defended objective in hostile territory, reach a buried command space, capture the commander alive if possible, and get out before the enemy can mass a response. That's the kind of sentence that sounds clean in a briefing room and savage in reality. Imagine you're in that aircraft, knees against equipment, weapons steady, headset crackling. You know the bunker may be wired. You know every corridor may choke into a kill zone. You know there are families asleep thousands of miles away who won't understand the details if you don't come home. Heart pounding. This is real. At the landing zone, dust explodes under rotor wash. Rangers dismount fast and disappear into darkness broken only by infrared strobes and distant fire. Overhead, F-35s and armed drones hold the larger battle space. Attack aviation scans for vehicles racing in from nearby garrisons. Precision fires cut off one convoy on a mountain road before it gets close enough to matter. The broader response is working exactly as designed. Isolation first, assault second. The objective is not the main blast door. That would be predictable, defended, and likely pre-sighted. The entry comes through a service access route identified through earlier ISR and confirmed by post-strike thermal changes. Even then, nothing is clean. Smoke, concrete dust, twisted cable, emergency lights flashing red in underground haze. The Rangers descend into a bunker that feels less like a base and more like the inside of a machine that has suddenly realized it is being hunted. Contact comes in short, violent bursts. A guard team appears at the bend of a corridor. Suppressed fire, flash, movement, down. Another door, another exchange. Shouts in Farsi, a surrender warning. Then the sound of boots on concrete and somebody dropping a rifle. This is the part movies lie about. There is no soundtrack. There is no slow motion. There is confusion, breath, noise, adrenaline, and the primal terror of not knowing what's behind the next steel frame. Could you step through that door? Could you trust the man beside you with your life in a hallway full of smoke and alarms? Rangers do not ask whether the moment is fair. They move because stopping is worse. At 3:19, an interior command chamber is reached. Screens still glow. Maps still show the failed strike arcs. Operators are dragged back from consoles or pinned where they stand. One senior officer attempts to reach a side passage and is tackled before he gets there. Another reaches for a sidearm and is dropped. Then, in the confusion, the commander himself is found not in some dramatic throne room, but in a reinforced communications compartment behind a second blast partition, surrounded by aides and half-packed evacuation cases. That detail matters. Leaders always preach defiance until extraction time. He is ordered to surrender. For 2 seconds, nobody moves. Then he does. Captured alive. That is the strategic break. Because a dead commander is a symbol. A captured commander is a collapse. Documents, encrypted devices, call signs. Network maps, launch procedures, courier schedules, safe houses, liaison points with proxy cells. All the hidden connective tissue of the campaign suddenly at risk. The underground war room was supposed to be a shield. Instead, it becomes a vault ripped open from the inside. Extraction begins immediately. The assault force is not there to occupy. It is there to cut, seize, and vanish. Demolition teams render key systems inoperable. Sensitive materials are bagged. Hard drives are stripped. Additional precision strikes hit secondary entrances after the force clears, denying rapid reuse of the site. Overhead, the air umbrella holds. Nearby response elements trying to mobilize face cratered roads, jammed communications, and aircraft they cannot see but know are there. Predator and prey have switched places completely. By sunrise, the fictional tally is devastating. 42 minutes of air battle from first detection to final intercept. 7 hours and 3 minutes from first missile launch to confirmed extraction of the IRGC commander. 52 hostile weapons launched, 49 destroyed before meaningful impact, 3 penetrations, all tactically insignificant. 6 U.S. personnel wounded, none killed. On the other side, 11 launchers destroyed or abandoned, 4 command nodes neutralized, 3 air defense sites knocked out, 2 logistics depots burning, 1 underground war room rendered inoperable, and 1 senior commander in custody. Less time than a cross-country flight delay, more strategic effect than months of rhetoric. And that is the real lesson buried inside this fictional scenario. Modern war is no longer won by who shouts loudest, nay, or who fires first, or who hides deepest underground. It is won by who sees first, shares fastest, decides clearest, and integrates across domains without freezing under pressure. The attack failed not because the missiles were weak. The bunker failed not because the concrete was thin. They failed because isolated systems were trying to defeat a connected one. There is also a harder lesson. Hardened tunnels, ballistic salvos, drone swarms, and media spectacle can still kill people. They can still wound, terrify, and escalate. But if your plan depends on your enemy hesitating while you remain visible in the electromagnetic spectrum, you are gambling with a loaded chamber. In this scenario, the Americans didn't just defend. They translated defense into pursuit, pursuit into isolation, and isolation into capture, not a chaotic brawl. A hunt. And that should make every serious military planner uncomfortable. Because if this is what a connected battle space can do today, what happens when sensing gets faster, autonomy gets smarter, and command chains grow even more fragile? What survives then? The missile? The bunker? Or only the side that can adapt before the first warning tone even finishes sounding? Which decision was most critical? The early detection, the layered air defense, or the choice to seize the commander alive instead of simply destroying the bunker? Debate below. Hit subscribe for in-depth military breakdowns.